What's my grade for today? Tell me, give me notes.
I'm gonna give you.
Be for real. Be critical.
Why you don't even let me get it
because
out?
Sometimes he be nice to me, y'all. He be nice to me.
Welcome into another edition of the Conner's Couch Sports. Thank everybody that joined us last week. Was jumping in the comments on the TikToks and the Instagram.
Y'all are serious about this,
and we love it, and that's why we do it. And we thank y'all for conversing with us. I thought Zar did an amazing job last week.
Thanks, honey.
For her first thing, so excited for episode 2. It'll be a shorter one than the first time. We had a lot. Well, I don't even want to start.
Yeah, y'all know how we do. Y'all know
how we go.
If you're new here, I'm your girl Intisar Eleanor. This is Joe. Please follow us at Joe and Zar on Instagram, everything. TikTok, YouTube. You should be subscribed here. If you hear, subscribe. Even if you hate us, subscribe.
Period.
Hate watch us. We love it. It turns us on. People do it.
But
exactly, do that.
So what we talking about today is the women's Olympic team, right? So they put out a list of the final 12 that are who were the finalists for the women's Olympic team that's going to be taking place in Paris. And so the elephant in the room is Caitlin Clark wasn't on the list.
I don't know why that's an elephant.
It's a huge elephant.
And I don't know why
I wanted to know what you thought about her being left off the list. But I'm going to tell you why for obvious reasons. But it's the big elephant was that Caitlin Clark wasn't on the list. Did you think it? So you didn't think it was a big deal at all?
Absolutely not. And I think
tell us why.
I don't think people understand what the Olympics is. I don't think people understand how long these people prepare for the Olympics. The women's break, how long they get to actually play with each other. And this team is a team that most of them have played together. They are all professional players. And I don't even understand how Caitlin is even an option. I really don't.
What you mean why she's an option? Like to be on the team?
Caitlin just started playing at a professional level like a month ago. Mm-hmm. Olympics are this summer. That means that there's been a 3-year gap that they have been preparing the team that is going to go over and represent the women's basketball team. A lot of these women have already been on a roster with one another, one playing as the women's U.S. team. So when you are playing in the Olympics, and I think this is what falls short on people, when you're playing on the Olympics, you don't start that day, right? You have to place. You have to make sure that you are in contention.
The trial games.
You have to do trial games. You have to do all of those things. You have to do trial finals, all of that. So these women have gone in some combination of them, but mostly this group of women has gone through all of that. So the idea that Caitlin Clark should even be on this, I'm going to be honest, I don't even understand why this is a conversation.
So it's a huge conversation. One, why she qualifies is because she's one of the best rookies, the best rookie in her class. And there's precedent for that. When you go back and you look at the Christian Laettner.
Yeah, I know.
He's just an example. But he's not the only one. And it's not the first. He won't be the last. There's precedent for that. I understand the arguments on both sides of this, right? I think there's similar to the previous conversation we had. If you watch the other video, I think that there is a lot of nuance in this that is being missed. I understand both sides of it. For me, it boils down to what is it that you're trying to accomplish, right? What is it that you're focused on, right? I think for the women's game, it's a little bit different than the men's game on the international level because they aren't at a point where they're focused on, trying to make sure that the NBA gets more eyeballs or that the players in the NBA get paid more money, right? So I think for the women's game, there's a difference here. So are we focused on the notion of growing the game like we've been talking about for the past couple years, right? The big emphasis on growing the game, a big emphasis on, player endorsements and player eyeballs and viewership and coverage and pay and all of these other things. Are we focused on that? Or are we just doing business as usual? If you're just doing business as usual, then like you said, it's not a big deal, right? Because she's a rookie, because she'll have another chance. She's young, and all of that things. And the team is going to win with or without her. So I think that's beside the point as well, right?
Right.
But
no, that is a point, right? So everybody is saying that because I've been watching that they're going to win with or without her, right? So just put her on there. But the problem, and this is
that's not what I'm saying.
I know. I said. Are you trying to land a plane here?
No.
I interrupted.
I was gonna land the plane for you. I wanted you to get your take on is where do you think their focus should be? Because my thing is this: I'm okay with it if it's just basketball. Even if it's just basketball, they have some flaws in that argument. Because they came out and made a statement. Somebody from the WNBA, not the WNBA, I'm sorry, from the Olympic team, which is a different entity, came out and made a statement that indicated that it wasn't just about basketball. So they have some flaws there, and we're going to get to that statement because I want to get your reaction to that statement. So Christine Brennan from USA made a statement on behalf of, the story in USA basketball. She said, 2 sources, both longtime USA basketball veterans with decades of experience in the women's game, told me Friday that concern about how Caitlin Clark's millions of fans would react to what would likely be limited playing time on a stacked roster was a factor in making a decision. Why is that a factor in making a decision? When if it's going to be about basketball, I'm fine with that. Just say I don't think she's good enough. But they're saying
she's not going to play. So then what? Now we're going to get backlash from her being on the team. That's what they're saying.
Why are we picking? If it's about basketball, then let it be about basketball. Whether or not fans are tweeting about it and you're getting backlash about it shouldn't come into play if you're claiming that it's basketball.
No.
It's okay if you're not claiming that it's basketball
But to me, see, I see this completely differently. That is such a valid point, and I'm going to tell you why. Because although the WNBA is doing a piss poor job of protecting the other women who are on from the propaganda that is Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp and whomever else, the truth of the matter is we want to make sure these women are representing the United States, proud to represent the United States. They are a emblem of success. If we put somebody that has such a vitriolic base, right, and we put her on a team and then we don't play her, all of the hard work of these women will be overshadowed. That matters, especially because if you let everybody else tell it, they're going to win either way. So if they're going to win either way, then we might as well not even have this hurricane. Let's allow her to get her knocks, prepare herself for this global audience, and then we can move on. I think that was such a poignant way to put it. I'm not gonna overshadow. You're talking about the Asia Wilsons, the what's her name? Oh God, the Brittany Griners. This is a stacked roster, and not only that, this is a global stage. You got Kelsey Plum, you got like champions on there. And as much as this young woman is so unbelievably talented, it is okay that this is not the team that she makes this year. Like, that's okay.
So I agree. I do think that's okay. I think that directly contradicts their narrative that it was only about basketball. You can't say that this decision was made about basketball and then say in the same breath, she's not on the team because we're afraid of her Twitter mob.
No,
they're saying that.
No, what
this is a
listen. What she's saying is
from Caitlin Clark's fans.
What they are saying is we have a stacked roster. If we chose to put this woman on the roster with this stacked roster, she would get no playing time.
We already know that,
she gets no playing time, right?
Everybody knows.
Right. Okay, so Neil,
we're getting away from the meat and potatoes here. because what I really wanted a response to is whether or not you think it should be a basketball decision or whether or not they should talk about growing the game. Because the thing that I have a problem with that people want to go at, which same thing that Stephen A. Smith said when he said, when Monica said, well, you should have been covering the game 3 years ago, right? He made a statement that like I said, I almost never agree with him, but he made a statement about what she said about that.
You know why we didn't do a better job of promoting the WNBA? Because the numbers, the eyeballs, the interest, the sizzle, the headlines were not there. No one cared. The public didn't care. And so now you have somebody, that has the world caring, and you say to her, well, you know what? We want to make purely basketball decisions. It's the right thing to do, and we got to be worried about how other people are going to feel. But you're still complaining about the max salary being $250,000.
It had everything to do with the fact that the eyeballs in the narrative wasn't there 3 years ago, right? So now it's here. So now we have an opportunity to grow the game. If we are going to focus on growing the game, we had a video last week where we talked about how the WNBA is not an international game. Well, guess what audience this is? An international audience. So we're going to talk about the fact that these things are definitely in a place where the squeaky wheel needs to get the oil. Then are we going to focus on growing the game? Or are we just going to talk basketball? Because if we're just going to talk basketball, then we can't put out a statement saying, well, she's only not on a team because we're afraid of her fans. That sounds crazy to me.
They did not say that she's only not on the team. They said the concern. That means we thought about her being on a team like we may have thought about hold on.
We all know.
Wait a minute, but that matters. But the problem is, no. The source did not say we picked Caitlin, kicked her off the roster because that's not what that said. They said Friday, the concern about how Clark's millions of fouls. That means they thought about it like they may have thought about other players for whatever reason they thought about them.
Concern about from any entity.
But guess what? That aspect of it may not have been a concern from another player. The point I'm trying to make is when they go through and look at these young women on whatever database they choose to look at them, and they're putting this team together, they may have a number of reasons why they don't pick somebody. So the act like, a number, and it might not be limited to basketball.
Do you think it should be about basketball versus growing the game?
I think it should be, you said something last week that I think ties into this. You said that it took 30 years for the NBA to become what it was. It took just about the same amount of time for the NFL to usurp baseball as America's game, right? Mm-hmm. So the truth of the matter is, I believe vehemently with internet gambling, okay, and social media, the women's game was coming this way either way. And I think I think that the women's game was growing either way. With internet gambling.
When you say coming this way, I want to park there because I think that a lot of times when we talk about Caitlin Clark and the rookies class, so like I said last week, I think the rookie class is also getting overlooked. The Cameron Branks and the Angel Reese of this class are getting overlooked a lot of times in the conversation because they draw a lot of eyeballs too.
Yes.
But I think the magnitude of the eyeballs that they draw is being overshadowed with this overarching theme that the league was progressing. The league was progressing, but it was never progressing like this. The Fever by themselves averaged 4,000
seats, and now they're 17.
And now they're averaging 17,000. Right? That's a big thing.
And that's massive.
And somebody was
talking about Chicago Sky.
Somebody was live streaming was it Angel Reese?
Yes.
And it was 2 million. So what I'm saying is, a lot of times people I've seen it.
But I'm not trying to.
People throw this in like, well, it was going this way. It was never going to get here the way it jumped with these two young women leading it. That's what I'm saying.
My thing is, I think the problem is that we are in this society where everybody has to have credit for every small thing that they or everything that they do. Not even small. These are monumental things. I think the bigger thing about this is that, yes, these women have came in and have been able to galvanize and do all of the beautiful things that they have done. A large part of that, almost none of that, has nothing to do with the media, right? It's almost grassroots. It's almost grassroots that we've been able to galvanize and do all these things, right? So my thing is, don't lose. And you know what grassroots is? Authentic. Don't lose the authenticity trying to market something to an audience that's going to get wrapped up in the story anyway. I feel like the Olympic team is just that. When I think about Olympians, I think about the greatest of the greatest. Not once does it ever come to my mind, and I think this is more an American thing than it is anything else. Not once does it come to my mind, who looks more like Barbie and Ken? Who can we throw over there? This only started, if we're being honest.
Well, the marketing aspect was always a part.
But this only started after those.
Jordan.
This only started when they went back and the greatest of the great men put their fists up at the Olympics, and they had an issue with that. Then America had to start thinking about, okay, let's start thinking about marketing these people, because we don't want them to go out there on these global stages and then make these political statements. That's what happened, y'all. So now it's a marketing thing. Now it's what does it look like for everybody? When prior to that, you had what's the one that Jesse, I cannot think of his name, but he was a track star. He was running during the time in Germany when Hitler was literally moving into all of these different countries. This was a black man on a global stage. This changes the political, these are political agendas. America is not slick. So now you have all of these sports things. Everybody's thinking about, okay, how can we market this? How can we twist this? How can we flip this, right? So now it comes down to, does it look good and palatable for white ears and eyes?
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
And I think that's what this is. And I think even the conversation is what I'm getting at. I'm saying the base of the conversation, the women have won 7 in a row. The base of this conversation is that Olympians are the greatest of the greatest of the greatest. Period.
Well, this team already doesn't have the greatest of the greatest on it. The young girl from Dallas, Ogunwale, sorry if I butcher her name. A lot of people think that she should be on the team. The girl Chelsea Gray that's on the team hasn't played all year. Some could argue that Diana Taurasi's numbers, we could pull up her. We're gonna
but it's not
but when we look at Diana Taurasi's numbers versus Caitlin Clark numbers this season, the numbers are actually pretty similar. With giving, if you're just going by the statistics, you can actually give Caitlin Clark the edge, right? A lot of people think that even Diana being on the team was a marketing thing. Because of her name, right? So we can't act like that's not a part of it.
The difference is that these women, and I think this is fallen as well, this is already a cohesive team. The women don't get all-star games like the men get all-star games. When we think about the Olympic team, these women are going through different exercises prior to there's 4 years in between them.
Right.
4 years. So in 4 years, Caitlin Clark was in college. In 4 years, some of these women, the Brittany Griners, the Teresi, all of them, Kelsey Plum, they have already had the opportunity on multiple occasions to build their own chemistry within this American team.
Right. So some of the chemistry part of it speaks to the basketball part of it, which I'm speaking
to, because when I think of the Olympics, I think of the sheer talent of what it takes to. We got to think about how.
Hold on, because I want to.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
The chemistry part speaks to the basketball part of it. So when we first started this topic, I said I think that there's two sides to it, and I think that it just depends on, to me, what is it that you're aiming to do, right? If it's purely a basketball thing where you're just focused on winning gold, even though it can't be lost at the fact that they won seven years in a row, and they be slapping these Jones around.
No, they don't be slapping these Jones around. What they do is they be. But wait a minute, slapping. The men are slapping them around. The women are fighting for these titles.
The men are not slapping them. The men have not won.
Go back and look. Arguably, the women have been going through in these games. They've been getting it out the mud versus Nigeria. The women versus all of
for like a decade.
They have been favored, but they have been fighting. Specifically, the last Olympics, those women fought for that gold.
I want to get to the question. The fact of the matter is, the women have been far more dominant in international play than the men have been. Mm-hmm. That's where the LeBron redeemed teams. The men have been actually struggling to because you can look at the NBA. and see how the international game has caught up. So you have far more people can argue right now that the best player in NBA is a foreign player.
Yeah.
That's only because of the exposure that the game has gotten on the men's side, right?
Yeah.
So what the question is for me, whether this was a right or wrong decision boils down to whether or not you think the focus should be growing the game or just winning another gold medal.
But
right?
I don't understand why I think that's not the question. Why is that the question?
Now let's get into why it's the question. That's the question because we're still talking about a league where the max dollars that somebody can make is $250,000 a year. We're still talking about a league where there's still women complaining today, right now, getting on Twitter, talking about the facilities and the lack thereof of a lot of the resources and things that some of these players have that are not on teams that don't have Angel Reese, are not the Aces, are not Caitlin Clark and the Fever and things like that. We're still talking about a league that has to move certain games because they can't accommodate. They're still playing.
This is such an inflated conversation because the idea that I think the entire conversation is
the reason is still not in a position where we're talking about a league that is not where the NBA is. It's far from it. We're talking about a league that is not yet done cooking. We're talking about a league that actually still needs a lot of eyeballs and still needs a lot of help. The only way that you get to the point where these players are making $40 and $50 million a year like they are in the NBA is exposure. It's the international exposure that you get when you participate with these type of things. It's when you roll up and you have somebody with such a massive name and you have these massive eyeballs and you're doing these huge numbers. That's how those brand deals come. That's how those TV contracts come to allow these women to make money. We just talked about last week how some of the women in the league today have full-time jobs. I think the notion that the league is doing so well that
nobody's saying that though. Nobody is saying that.
I've actually heard people say this. I've actually heard people make remarks that insinuated that the league is fine. The league is not fine. So that's the only way that the league gets to the point where these women are making millions of dollars, which they are not yet. None of them are, right? So the only way that we get there is by
letting Caitlin Clark be on the 2024 Olympic team.
The only way that we get there is if there is a focus on growing the game. I didn't mention Caitlin's name in that sentence. We just talked about marketing. We just talked about focusing on growing the game and all of these things, right? So I'm asking you, do you think that the league shouldn't be worried about marketing? We're still in a situation. Can we agree? Can we agree on this sentence? The only way the girls get to the point where they are making the money that they want to make, where they have the exposure that they want to have, is if the game continues to grow. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is very few moments. The Olympics only come around every 4 years. So there's moments in time where you have to capitalize on those moments. Okay. That's what we're talking about right here. We can take Caitlin Clark's name out of it. Put Boo Boo the Fool in there. We're talking about a moment in time where you have an opportunity to capture a large audience for the women's game. Let's not even talk about Caitlin Clark. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. So I think it's weird, the notion to me that this women's game does not need it. I think we've talked so much about a series of 3 or 4 women that play in the WNBA, and we forget about all of these women somebody's on the bench making a teacher's salary. And I think that person will want the game to grow.
But let me say this. I think the problem with this conversation is that it's conflating. And I feel like that's why I'm having such a hard time with this, if I'm being honest. I think we can speak to why this young woman and all that she's done has been left off. But I think, I don't think she would want to be reduced to, the eyeballs that she can bring because she's just a good player.
Reduced.
I mean, like,
how do you reduce somebody to being a huge draw?
No, I'm not. I'm saying like she can be a huge draw, but in a room full of actual people who play the game and have played the game at a professional level longer than her, I don't even understand how this is even I genuinely don't understand how this is a conversation.
Only 3 years ago, Kyrie Irving donated $1.5 million to supplement the women's salary because he saw that they needed that. This only happened 3 years ago, y'all. That's why this is a subject. It's a subject because the women's game still is in a position where they are not where they want to be.
But the problem
the key word is they, not Joe Conner or Stephen A. Smith or all of these other they all good.
But hear me out, because the bigger issue here is it really does not matter who comes into the NFL and plays the game. Doesn't matter who comes into the NBA and plays the game. The NBA and the NFL have managed to create a narrative and market themselves in a way that you understand. The consumer understands that this is professional. You should watch. To your point, the U.S. team being a separate entity from the WNBA, I actually believe that the WNBA's problem is not whether or not Caitlyn. The reason why I think this is completely asinine is because.
You think what's asinine? Her being on the team?
The conversation is because the truth
the
of the
conversation around the women's game growing?
I think the conversation about Caitlyn Clark being on this team is just like, I think it's premature. I think it's asinine.
So take that out then. Let's speak to the part where just 3 years ago, Kyrie Irving had to donate $1 million of his own money to supplement women's salary. Let's speak to the part where we can talk the actual factuals of the numbers of the money that these women make, of the exposure that they get, the way the league is playing catch up right now. Let's speak to that.
And
that's not propaganda. That's factual.
The problem is that the WNBA does not have the marketing infrastructure as the
Why don't they?
Or the NFL, right? So because they don't have that infrastructure, I think even putting this is what I'm trying to get at. Even capitalizing on a moment like this would mean absolutely nothing for the WNBA because
it would mean nothing
because they don't even have the infrastructure to handle this. The truth of the matter is that they are already allowing the media, who just a few years ago wasn't paying them no goddamn mind, to wield a story about them that is like, or wield these stories about their players, about Caitlyn Clark, about impact that they don't have any input on, and they are not moving their own stories forward indifferent than the NBA. We just saw a commercial just the other day about the championships coming up, and even that kind of marketing the WNBA doesn't do. So when I say I think that this is a moot point, because it would really be like college level, professional level, surgeon level, NBA, NFL, they're there as actual professionals. The WNBA right now, marketing wise, is elementary. I don't think that even if they put this young woman as many eyes and everything that they would get, I don't know that they could turn it into anything, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is, it's just like, let's have a different, we can say, we need to put her on there because then everybody's going to watch the WNBA now. Like, the problem is that we're allowing the media to create stars and social media to create stars, stars versus us actually choosing somebody and putting a machine behind them while we have the eyeballs. Because the truth of the matter is you could do both things. We can have people who have these large followings and have this great impact, because I think Caitlyn Clark has a massive impact on the game and everything like that, and take that audience and with the proper marketing, wield it into pushing our actual WNBA princess into something. Because there are women here who have fought and worked extra hard to be on this team. And not to say that this young woman hasn't. I just think at the level that they're playing, at this global level that these other women have the experience of playing at, I just don't feel like, I feel like let Caitlyn have her first rookie season. Let her do that. And then also let her go out there and market for, she could do both. She could be she could market for the Olympic USA team without being on it. She can do that just like all the other women. I feel like to even act like there's only one way is just so like.
You feel like the marketing that the WNBA could possibly get from being in cahoots with the women's game at an international level, the Olympic team and their organization, you think that is nothing?
No, I said I do not think they have the infrastructure. You think about all the reality stars that come out of things. We could do it like this.
Well,
there are so many popular.
You alluded to it meaning nothing.
But it means nothing if you do not have the infrastructure. You could do a ton of things, but if you do not have the machine behind you to push all of that work and momentum forward, it means nothing. It just was a moment. And what I'm saying is the WNBA right now does not have the infrastructure to be, even if they put this woman out there, I don't think it would make as much of an impact as we think it would. I just don't.
I think the idea that they would need to, there's things that the WNBA would need to capitalize on this moment, I think is a valid idea. But I think the idea that regardless of what they capitalize on moving forward, that it wouldn't mean much if they don't have X, Y, and Z in place. I think I don't agree with that at all. So Janae Ogumake, you're familiar with Janae Ogumake. She's on First Take a lot. She has when she was talking about this, she had a couple of interesting quotes. One of them was speaking about the monstrosity that is the international game and is the Olympic and is the Olympic Games. So one of the things that she said was the Olympics are the pinnacle of international basketball, right?
Yes.
So this is a woman who has played the game, is an ambassador for the game, is an analyst of the game. So this is somebody who is admitting that this is the highest of the heights, right? So if we can acknowledge that this is the highest of the heights, we can't say that our association with it and capitalizing with these type of eyeballs at this level is nothing. The WNBA being attached to this team and being in cahoots with the organization the same way that the NBA is. When they plan these games and they plan these things like that, they're separate entities, but they're absolutely working with each other
for sure.
1,000%. The reason why they are doing that is because of the trickle down effect that the benefits that they get from making sure that they put a good foot forward on the international stage. So that's why I wanted to highlight what she said, because I agree with her that this is the pinnacle here, right? So the idea that there shouldn't be a conversation to talk about maximizing this moment to me is wild to me. I don't agree with that.
What I think is premature is the conversation around Caitlin Clark.
I want to, because once we get into that, we get into the whole political, all of the extra things.
I think it's premature.
To me, this is less about Caitlin Clark and more about what she said about this being a pinnacle, right? The other statement that she said was, might this be a failure to grow the game? Yes. Right? So this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an opportunity to grow the game. Take Caitlin Clark out of it. Take any other names out of it. I'm talking about strictly about an opportunity to grow the game where we are forgetting about a league of women.
But where do they show? Where is there evidence that when the Olympic gold men's male team came back, right? Where's the evidence that translated in audience, a larger audience for them at all? Like, what's the evidence of that?
The NBA has for the past 10 to 15 years made such an effort to broaden their footprint overseas. They send the players over there in the summertime to play games, to play exposition games. They started to do this thing where they'll send the NBA teams over to play against international teams, and they televise that, right? There's all of these little gimmicks. You're starting to see the NFL do the same. They're starting to see the NFL do the same thing, right? Because they see the value in capitalizing on the eyeballs that come from these international exhibitions and the international events.
I'm confused.
The NFL isn't sending the Eagles and the Packers to Brazil to play just because they think they're going to make a couple dollars off of it. They're doing it because there is a direct correlation with these international eyeballs and how they grow their league. What we're talking about is a missed opportunity, which Janae Ogumake agreed to. Is this a missed opportunity to grow the game? Yes, right? So what I'm saying is, with this whole subject, for me, is that this boils down to two different paths and two different focuses, right? It is widely known that growing the game should be a priority for the WNBA.
I agree with that.
We can't debate that.
I agree with that.
If the numbers show it, the experts show it, the women who are now analysts on ESPN like Janae and like Monica McNutt, the idea that the women's game is in a great position today is a farce.
But
It's just
nobody's saying that.
But there is people that's saying that. So what I'm saying is there's absolutely a legitimate question to be asked whenever there is a moment in time where we should be, where you can ask the question, is this an opportunity to grow the WNBA? We should absolutely have a conversation about it. Absolutely. That's why I wanted to take Caitlin Clark out of it, because financially, Caitlin Clark is fine. Let's be honest about it. You know what I mean? She might be only making $70,000 this year or whatever, but she has millions in endorsements and she has all these other options. She's going to be fine. Angel Reese is going to be fine. We talking about the league itself, the infrastructure. You talked about the lack of infrastructure that they have, a lot of these teams, right? We talk about the women who have full-time jobs. We talk about NBA players that's taking money out their own pockets just a couple years ago to float salaries, right? So there absolutely is a question of whether or not this was a missed opportunity to grow the game.
I can understand how people could see it that way. I can understand how they could see it as like a marketing opportunity. I guess I'm just trying to understand. I think I'm confused, because what I don't understand is, how is her base going to translate eyeballs internationally when her base is domestic?
The reason why this is such a conversation is because growing the game internationally will absolutely 100%.
But that's
help.
not my. But how?
And everything where there, especially in the entertainment world, where there is an investment to be made,
yeah,
a lot of these businesses go off a sample size, right?
Okay.
So with the music industry, for example, nowadays, everything is playing catch up to the social media space or to whatever other following that this said prospect artist has, whether it's on YouTube or TikTok, or so that's why you see all of these weird deals happening with people who wouldn't be your traditionally talented artists, right? Because a lot of it has to do with them seeing a sample size and going, we think we can blow that up.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is no different from the things that the WNBA, the NBA and these other leagues like the NFL and things like that do, right? So for the WNBA, they already have a sample size of what Caitlin Clark's audience, and not even just Caitlin Clark, because again, this is an Angel Reese thing, this is a Cameron Brink thing, this is a rookie class that's coming in with 10 and 15 and millions of followers each, right? So what they see is those audiences are sample sizes. So what their goal is, and I can't speak to what the WNBA is doing or trying to do. So I can only talk about what I've seen the NFL do and what I've seen the NBA do. They go, we see what Zion Williamson does for us as an audience in the States. We bet if we take his big ass overseas, we can build a bigger audience of Zion Williams fans overseas that will eventually translate to our dollars, because he doesn't play in Israel. So he doesn't play in Italy. So when we send him
it'll be like a big deal to see him play.
1,000%. So not only can we capitalize on sending him over there, but then when he comes back, we bring their eyeballs back, right? The one thing about Joker being such a huge superstar here is that Joker brings his audience to the States. Right? So these people, when they're interviewing these people, when he was in the finals, they talking about how they took, trip flights with their families and came to the States for the first time just to see Joker play and all of this stuff.
Right.
So these are things this is the missed opportunity that they were talking about.
So do you think she got snubbed?
I think snub makes it a basketball conversation.
Okay.
And to me, if it's a basketball conversation, which is why I don't like the statement about we took into account her fans. If you're going to make it a basketball conversation, that's fine. Like I said, to be honest, you can argue that these aren't the 12 best women in the States. You can argue that right now.
But I don't think it's about it being the best. The problem, I don't think it's about them being singularly the best 12 women. I think it's about them being collectively.
Which is fine. When we talk about taking pieces apart and adding people in, then now you're comparing them to who would be their substitute. Right? You can't make a list and then say, well, who would you put on the list? And I talk about, who would you take off the list? Right? And so when you are trying to,
but also is everybody in contention? So when you're on the NBA or the WNBA, is everybody who plays in the league, or do you have to sign up? Like you yourself, you have to sign up for the Olympic Games?
You have to be invited. You have to be invited by, so USA Basketball is its own organization, both on the men's and women's side, and they send out invitations, right? And so you have to be invited to come, even to do these other trial games and things like that. You have to be invited. So Caitlin was just simply not invited. To ask the question whether she was snubbed or not makes it a basketball conversation to me. And like I said, when you're making a list, you will have to compare who you're taking off or who you're putting on third.
I almost want to start this conversation again.
You have to compare who's getting picked to each other, right? So that solicits the conversation of the comparisons, right? So that's why when I say you can argue that these aren't the 12 best women, because you can look at some of them and go, you can look at like I said, you can look at Dianataurasi, and if you want to compare her to Caitlin Clark, they have comparable stats, right? And some would argue that because she's younger, she might be a more dynamic player at this stage in her career, right? Yeah. So, but then you can argue that there's other players that are actually at her position are better than Diana, right? So to me, if it's a basketball thing, it happens because it's only 12 slots, right? So to me, I don't think, again, she's a rookie. She would only be from a pure basketball standpoint, she would only be on the brink. You know what I mean? And we're talking about somebody.
Yeah, and she only just started, right? Like, yes, it's only been a month and some change.
Yeah, so if it's, like I said, I can understand the arguments to be made on both sides. And the basketball side of it, to me, says that she was not quote unquote snubbed, right? I don't think she was snubbed, but
the marketing standpoint,
I think I can also understand the side where we can look at this and say and have some type of agreement amongst, because obviously there's going to be contradictory ideas and things of whether or not she should have been on it or she shouldn't have been picked. But then when you hear people from the league, the Janae Ogumekes and the people that go, listen, maybe this was a missed opportunity to grow the game. I can understand that too. I think there's a nuance to this whole thing.
I can understand it, and I think the problem is when I talk about Caitlin Clark, I talk about her from a space of being like she's a rookie and a baby in the game, and I do think she has a massive platform and she has a massive way of galvanizing people that is such a special thing, and I love that, right? But I just want her to have the opportunity to just be a ball player in the league first. Like, I just want her to have that opportunity. She's young. All these women, most of these women on the roster right now played in the previous Olympic game, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea that she wouldn't be able to play an Olympic game is not lost on anybody. And guess what she'll be when she do that? A leader. You know what I mean? She'll be a leader in her space. And I feel like, we're putting a lot of, it's like betting on black. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like to me. Like, I feel like people don't want to do the work. That's what I'm saying. I feel like, could it be a missed marketing opportunity? Yes, to a lazy marketer. But if you are good at what you do, you can market anything.
But I think the opportunity, the word,
it's like catching lightning in a bottle. I understand what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying.
I think it's a lazy.
But I'm saying now that we're here, it could be it could be thought to be lazy.
The thing that makes it a conversation is the fact that you could have just threw her on the bench. Like, that's the lazy part of it to me. Like, it was a lazy come up. You know what I mean?
And that's what they're thinking as well. It's a lazy come up. And the truth of the matter is, in a league now, we already have these other entities, media, these outlets are already speaking about the WNBA, even if it is just Caitlin Clark right here stateside, right? So if we can spin this and take all of those eyeballs, take all of that fuming, take all of that whatever, a good marketer can still turn that into something. And I think that what the WNBA, and I think this is a big, but I think the conversation should be less about the players and more about the infrastructure that they lack. And what we really need to be looking at is they top 12 marketers on their team. Because the truth of the matter is they missing real bad. They down real bad right now. Between Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Ellie the Elephant, they is out here carrying the WNBA on their goddamn backs.
1,000%.
You understand what I'm saying? That shouldn't be the narrative. It shouldn't be left up to the players to move the needle forward. They are already the professionals. They got so much to focus on. Y'all got to do y'all part.
I think partly why this is a conversation to me and potentially a a missed opportunity on multiple fronts, I think, is because of the fact that they have been dropping the ball, it feels to me.
Yes,
a
me
lot.
too. Me too.
And I think that, to me, even the statement, I didn't even like. To me, the statement was messy. You know what I mean? Because
the statement was not messy. It was messy and unprofessional. It was like, y'all don't do this.
Yes.
It was like, y'all don't even know how to handle
because to me, we're not idiots, right?
Yeah,
so I think that this is absolutely going to be a part of conversations that are going on in these New York front offices.
Yeah.
I also think that you should not add to the fodder by putting out a statement in a publication saying, well, we took into account, the backlash that we would get. I just think that you're adding to a climate that's already a bit messy because of so many things. You got race involved, and you got economic standings
and you're but that says to me nobody is right, and you're absolutely right.
That's why I didn't like the statement.
And then it allows people to spin it, right? It allows people to. It allows these moments where I'm like, no, we got to listen to the words, or it allows these moments where really, if you all had a team, and that's why, for me, I think it's, and I think this is what they were trying to get at, but Stephen A is so annoying. The large part of this is he's like, what is the WNBA's plan moving forward? Y'all got all these people following this girl.
Yeah.
Y'all got all these people following Angel Reese. Y'all got all these people following Ellie the Elephant. What is the plan? Because if you're going to leave her off, we would have to believe you already got lightning in a bottle somewhere that you're going to release,
right,
that is going to help push the market and the culture forward, right?
And the WNBA and women's USA basketball alike,
yes,
because they're also these are entities that also need funding. They still need funding, right?
But this is all of the Olympics too, guys, because when you speak about the Olympics, it's not this shiny, beautiful thing.
No,
these people are getting it out the mud.
Yes.
They thugging it out. Like, you know what I mean?
And so,
all but maybe the men's basketball.
All but men's. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So what I'm saying is, it's not just the WNBA that I think there could have been a missed opportunity there, but also just for USA basketball, because when you go back and look at the numbers, people, as great as they have been over the past 7 years, they are not getting the eyeball, at least from the States.
But I think they're not. I think that's the NBA.
There are more people watching the Indiana Fever games than they are when you go back and watch the numbers, who have watched these women in the Olympics kick ass.
But so I think that's for. You know what I mean? But I think that's not falling. I think that's a good point. But I think that the WNBA, I think when we think about marketing, I know we're just talking about the Olympics right now, but I think overall, they got to start figuring some stuff out, because even when 100%. I think about the NBA All-Star game, they should all have to put like 2 women on a team.
Well, they do that now,
which is good, right? So it's like, even like start integrating, you know what I mean? So they see it as one large entity versus these 2 separate ones. And I think that that's a part of it. I think that finding a way to market the women that we have is a part of it. Even this conversation to flip that and push the culture forward is a part of it. Like they have to come out and show marketing, like, okay, Caitlin Clark may not be on the team, and it is during their summer, but if I'm the WNBA, I'm flying out Caitlin Clark, I'm flying out Angel Reese over to the international seas so they can sit in the stands and root these girls on. Because now what that shows is that we're in solidarity with these people. If I'm watching, you should be watching, all those things. You know what I mean? Like, use that cachet. The problem is, I don't think that they have it. I think that we want social media has made us think that the influencer needs to be doing the work, but the truth of the matter is, these aren't just public figures. These are professional athletes who need there has to be a team behind them.
Because I think my biggest thing is, there's been a lot of people dropping the ball, and to your point, it has not been the players.
It's not the players.
The players are doing their job, I think, but I think where we have been seeing things drop, when you are in a moment like this, like I said last week, this is definitely a moment in time. Don't let these people get out here and act like, well, we've been good. No, but no, y'all have not.
But I'm gonna say this. Sorry,
I think that this is absolutely a moment in time, and I think that it is very true. when they say that success is when preparation meets opportunity, right? No one saw this coming in the magnitude that it has hit in the year 2024. No one had saw this coming. No one saw, even when Caitlyn and Angel Reese was doing the hand thing to her, you know what I'm saying, in the championship game, no one saw that moment blowing up to this, right? And so I think that there's been a lot of entities that are in and around the league that have that it's been evident that they were not prepared to take advantage of this moment. And so when I don't know where you are getting the rest of your sports talk from and the opinions that you're listening to, but when I'm personally speaking on these matters and wanting them to take advantage of these moments, it's coming from a space of I'm a basketball fan, one, and I am a fan of so many of these women, like the Dawn Staley's and the Candace Parkers. Like I was just fans of them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I want to see the game be in a place where it can create more of them and be able to it's fun to see them on a platform where people are talking about them, and there's interesting new conversations and things. And just as a sports a consumer myself, I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's entertaining. So when I'm speaking from a standpoint of wanting them to capture these moments, that's where it's from for me. It ain't about, the racial component. It ain't about propping up a white woman, because I see people shooting shots at people who say anything.
Well, I've said it.
That's remotely not, but that's what I'm saying. I'm not coming from that space. Like, to me, it don't matter. It is because Caitlin Clark could be a 4 foot tall, heavy fat black guy.
But I'm gonna say this though.
But I would think that if he was allowed to play you never know where the world is going. If he was allowed to play in the league and it was gonna bring a lot of money, I would say throw his fat ass.
But
out there. You know what I mean?
So
to me, it's just more about seeing the league take advantage of these moments the same way that the NBA does, the same way that the NFL does.
But I think if Caitlin Clark was from Iceland or Finland, Denmark, Ukraine, whatever, right? I would argue that she should be on the team for the international aspect. I'm not of the belief that Americans watching the Olympics, the Women's Olympics game, is going to bring. I'm not of that. I'm not there yet. I don't understand that impact. I understand it the other way when you made the Jokic point. If he or Luka or somebody, I can see it that way. I just don't see. Not to say that there hasn't been, but I'm just saying I don't see it. There has been
a handful of guys like the Kobe Bryant to LeBron James who has advanced the league exponentially from them being international stars. I'm just saying that there was a number of things that came into play, and those things were a part of it. That's all I'm saying. Those things were absolutely a part of it. And I think that in order to become a success overseas, you can't have one without the other. That's all.
But I just don't want her to feel snubbed. I don't think that she should.
She tweeted, her coach came out and said she texted me on the side and said, yeah, I mean, so she does.
Well, okay. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm saying that because I think she's a champion in her own right. She don't have no rings, but I think she's a champion in her own right. You know what I mean? And I think that she is a force in her own right. And I just think that it's allowed for things to take time. I do think there may be a missed opportunity marketing wise, just based on this conversation and us having it full out. I can understand where the general consensus is there. And there may be. But I also just think that let's allow her to play out. Let's allow her to cook. You know what I mean? Like, let her do her thing.
I have a problem with her not being left off the team. I don't think it ain't gonna be her last
she got a problem.
She got a problem. But she's a basketball player, and that's the part of being
it's a competitive.
It's a competitive.
Okay.
I can understand that aspect of it. Like I said, I think she'll be fine. For me, I just want to see the game continue to grow, because I think also what's not talked about enough is the girls that's going to work at Popeyes after these games is over. You know what I mean?
That's not. But that's not. It does feel a little bit like shady.
There's no shade about it. I'm actually bringing light to something. It's actually the opposite.
It feels a little shady.
I'm actually bringing light to the fact that there are women who would love to be making way more money. Who would love to not have a full-time job. That's what I'm.
Yes. And you know what though? That means that the WNBA, now that they got all these eyeballs from the Caitlin Clarks, the Angel Reese's, and the Ellie the Elephants, need to get out there and start selling these hoes to the highest bidder. That's what they need to be doing. Yeah. And that's and that's all. And that's the only way they're going to make the ad dollars is going to be the way that they, to your point, right? The ad dollars, those marketing moments, those are going to be the way that they can boost these salaries.
The salaries only only get bumped up from these huge, the TV contracts is probably the number one thing. The TV contracts are directly connected to eyeballs.
Yeah.
It's just plain and simple. So what I was saying from my personal, from my Caitlin Clark aside, Angel Reese aside, white versus black, women versus men, I was saying that what I think is being overshadowed is the fact that there are absolutely women in the league still today in 2024 who have a full-time job, who would love to be making more money. And I think I want to see the league get to the point where they don't have to,
may not even be able to play because they are working a full-time
But that's
job.
what I'm saying. And I want to see the league grow to the point where they don't have to go overseas. Brittany Griner got caught up because she was going overseas to make money.
Right.
She wasn't going overseas because she wanted to play in Istanbul for the summer.
Yeah.
That was just that's what I mean when I say this, y'all. Like, people act like the league is, everybody's good now. You know what I mean? And it's just not true. And the only way that these women get good is if these big, massive contracts, these TV contracts come in and they help and the revenue from the ticket gate and all of that stuff continues to go up. And that's the only way that they're going to get to a point where they're where they want to be. And I just think that in all of the conversation, it's just getting overshadowed because we talking about the one or two people who are going to make $5 million this year. So, you know what I mean?
Literally one or two.
Yeah.
But I think that change, I'm going to be honest, I think with NIL deals being the way they are, right? Like Caitlin Clark, when I talk about marketing, Caitlin Clark is not Caitlin Clark just because of what she's able to do on the floor. Caitlin Clark is Caitlin Clark because she got a State Farm commercial.
Right.
And we live in America, and all we like is fame. See, in other countries, they care more if you read. Here, if you could dribble a ball, you're king, right? They don't care. So the truth of the matter is that the machine that she, also built by her, own social media, her likeness, everything that she was able to build because of that is now moving into the WNBA. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to see that more. When I say it's happening for them, that's because we're going to see that more. The girl, you said this last time, girls is getting prettier. They're getting more conscious of the way that they look. Mm-hmm. They're getting more conscious of what they put out there, what they consume, who's consuming them, right? So we're going to get more young women with large audiences.
Oh, yeah.
Once Juju come, are you kidding me? That's a baby.
She's going to be the one.
She's a baby, right? So now when she moves in, that's what I'm saying. They're going to get the audience. When I say it's happening, it's bubbling, it's because it is. Because the more these girls come out, the more they allow them to play on their likeness, they're going to get the eyes. And I think that matters.
It absolutely matters. I don't want to see these people drop the ball. Because
that's because they ain't hiring me.
The one thing that we can say is these kind of transcendent players that are doing these numbers like this and affecting the game. That's one thing I can give to Caitlin. When you look at the numbers and the things that she's affected from even just the other teams, right? Like the teams in the attendance in the WNBA averages around 7,000. Mm-hmm. Caitlin's team by herself averages around 17,000, right? So even just that alone, I think that when we got a Michael Jordan, we didn't get another Michael Jordan until Kobe Bryant. And then when we got a Kobe Bryant, we didn't get another Kobe Bryant until LeBron James.
I wonder how many years was in between it.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that these lightning model gotta get captured because it's only but so many coming in here, and so I just hope that
that's gonna be different. You don't think that's gonna be different with the NIL? Because the difference is that the machines are different, right? So now it's not just gonna be one person coming up and being the star. Now it's gonna be like, no, every team got a star.
No.
You don't think
that's how the NBA? I'm talking about from a standpoint of these once in a lifetime type players is what I'm saying. Because like that's how the NBA is. Now. Everybody has a star, but there's only one Kobe and LeBron.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is when you see that come along, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, you got to try to. But we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for rocking with us for yet another week. Make sure that you like and subscribe and comment. Tell us your thoughts, how you feeling. Go on all of the social medias at Joe and Zar on everything.
What's my grade for today? Tell me, give me notes.
I'm going to give you...
Be for real. Be critical.
Why you don't even let me get it
because
out?
Sometimes he be nice to me, y'all. He be nice to me.
A solid A for today. And I'm going to tell you why, because last week we talked about, like, you know, getting in the numbers and stuff. And I think you had more numbers today.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a solid A.
That was good, Baba. Yeah. Thank you.
So thank you guys for rocking with us, and we'll see you again next week.
Yep. Bye.